Every day, thousands of flats go up for rent in Birmingham, yet somehow it feels impossible to actually get one. You fill out the form, you've got your deposit ready, and you're just praying that the landlord picks you. When I started my new job in Birmingham, I thought finding a flat would be so easy. I spent weeks scrolling through SpareRoom, on different estate agents' websites, going to viewings on viewings on viewings, honestly, almost giving up. So how do you actually find a new flat in a new city that is actually worth the rent? I went to view 5 of the best I could find. Here's what I learned. I used a mix of SpareRoom and traditional estate agents. Estate agents only allow for you to own the entire property, whereas if you get a room via SpareRoom, you are able just to take a single room. You don't have to take ownership of the whole flat. What a lot of people do is they'll get a flat through the estate agents and then they will let it out to other people on SpareRoom. Depending on the type of building you live in, you can be added to the contract of where you're living, like a guest tenant or a third-party tenant. That way, you are still able to get in contact with the estate agents were something to happen, or if you weren't able to get in contact with your landlord or the person that you're living with. If you don't know where you're going to be staying long term, or you just want a bit of flexibility, SpareRoom is great because you can find shorter lets like 6 months to a year. So much cheaper than going through a traditional estate agent. You don't have to pay the enormous amounts of fees. You normally don't have to wait as long to move in, and you can normally be a bit more flexible on your payment schedule. I knew that if I went through traditional estate agents, I'd be paying a minimum of £900 to £1,000 a month, whether it be a studio, a small little one bed, because I'm in Birmingham city centre. Therefore, SpareRoom was a lot better for me, and my budget was £900 a month maximum, including bills. Ideally, I wanted it to stay under £800, so sharing made the most sense for me. But if you've got a bigger budget, then going down a traditional estate agent may work better for you. It means you don't have to share with anybody, and the flat is completely your responsibility. Number one, you want to make a list of your non-negotiables, the things that are most important to you. For me, number one, it had to be close to my job. I work in the city centre. I don't have a car with me in Birmingham, and I don't want to rely on public transport every single day. But if I can walk to my job, that would be great. So I want an apartment that is within like a commutable walking distance to my job. Two, it has to be furnished because I don't want to end up spending tons on furniture. I might be moving in a year or 6 months. I have ended up buying little bits and bobs, but nothing too big. I think the biggest piece that I bought for my room is my desk and my chair. That wasn't provided, but in my last apartment it actually was. Number three, safety. Especially as a woman, kind of living by herself. It's getting darker earlier these days, and I want to feel safe when I'm walking back from work. I used my job as my reference point when looking for apartments in the area, and all the apartments tended to be close to the city centre or pretty much in the city centre because that's where my job was based. The first place that I looked at was Ridley House, and this was actually through an estate agent. Super nice entrance, very welcoming, love the pops of colour. It felt pretty safe around the area as well. There was quite a lot of us when we actually went to the viewing that made me think, oh god, I need to move quick. With estate agents, you traditionally have to fill out an application form, then the agent will send that off to the landlord, and depending on like how much you propose you can pay each month, how long you plan to live there, whether you've got pets or not, the landlord will decide whether you're going to get the flat or not. And I had so many experiences where I applied for a flat, said I'll give like a good deposit, said I'm going to stay for a year minimum, and I still got rejected by the landlord. So it's kind of hard to gauge it sometimes, especially if the flat is in demand. There was probably about 5 or 6 of us at this viewing. The bedroom was quite cozy. You did have a little area for your wardrobe and your storage, but it was pretty packed, which made me think maybe there isn't enough space. Then you go into the bathroom. The bathroom was really nice, modern grey tiles, a really good size as well. Then we went into the living room. The guy was just working there, which is so funny, a bit awkward, but the living room was so nice, guys. I think this was one of my favorite living rooms just because it felt like really cozy. He had all the blinds down while he had his little Netflix on, and it was small, but it was enough for one person. He had enough space for his little ironing board. The kitchen was also quite tight, to be honest. It was quite narrow, but again, for one person I think it's fine. You can tell that like the guy that was living there was definitely running out of storage because he had pots and pans just everywhere. Fridge was kind of small, but more than enough space for one person. You have to remember, this is a 1-bedroom flat, and if you're living there alone, I think it's cool. I liked it because there was a clear separation of the different spaces. No balcony, but big windows so you get super sunny views on a good day. Price of this flat on its own was £900, and with bills it's probably about £1,200. So a little bit out of my budget. The house itself, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. The location was about a 7 out of 10. The safety was an 8 out of 10, and it was furnished, and the price was just a little bit too high. Apartment number 2 is Landro Place. I did find this flat via SpareRoom. The ground floor that she showed me was super bougie. As you can see, they've got study spaces, they've got a desk on the right, private like meeting rooms that you can book out, or great for filming videos, although people can see you through because it is glass, which is interesting. There was like some sort of church session going on the left because they got a really big open plan kitchen. It's just like seating areas, a little study area if you want to bring your work downstairs. I think it's quite good to have an area if you're working from home just to get out of your flat, which is nice. You feel calm when you walk in this building, to be honest. And right by the entrance they have a gym as well, which is great. Not the biggest, but I'm sure if you went early in the morning you'd be able to use all the equipment that you want. Then we moved on to the actual flat, which I think was on like the 7th or 8th floor. My first reaction to this place was the views. Like, you're just overlooking the city, and the actual flat was super bright, super airy. The fact that it was all white walls is perfect for me. It was a completely open plan living room / kitchen. Kitchen was sat along the back wall, and I think if I was to say that, I would have added like a little island that you can buy from IKEA, just so you've got like a little bit more surface space when you're cooking and things. Views over Birmingham were gorgeous. It was super clean, fully furnished. Bedroom had a built-in wardrobe that made my inner Pinterest girl so happy. The room was a pretty decent size, although the bed did take up a lot of the space. I think it was bigger than a double, but it had a really big slide-in mirrored wardrobe, so you can take your little mirror pics and then you can stuff all your clothes into that storage space. I haven't seen that many apartments in Birmingham with built-in storage. Like my place currently, we have a wardrobe. I think it's so much more seamless when you can just slide your doors across and slide them back. Bathroom was also super gorgeous. I love that it was situated at the back of the room, so it's not like you walk into your bedroom and then you see the ensuite right there. It was just tucked away nicely behind the bedroom corner. Then she took me to the rooftop space as well. So pretty. There was even an entertainment room that residents could rent out. The flat itself was a 9 out of 10. The location was also probably about a 9 out of 10. Safety, maybe a 7 out of 10, because there was like a lot of homeless people around. It was furnished, and the price was £800 excluding bills. So with bills, we're looking at about £1,000, which again was slightly over my budget. I didn't really have a budget because I hadn't really lived by myself while working full time. So I didn't know how much I was really going to spend per month on like food, groceries, like entertainment, stuff like that. It was me moving out for the first time. To know that you really need to have an idea of how much you think you're going to spend a month. I know for me, £700 to £800 is perfect. 700 is even better because I'm able to save enough while also be comfortable with my groceries and easily pay my rent. The Landro Place was definitely one of my favorites, and that £1,000 a month did end up being a little bit too high. With this flat, it was kind of off a main road, so cars were constantly coming in and out of the car park. Even when I arrived for the viewing, it was kind of noisy, but then when it was quiet, it just felt very eerie. So it was a ground floor apartment, and my bedroom looked directly into the car park. In architecture, eyes on the street is also a good thing, but when your bedroom is facing the street, I don't think that's very comfortable. People could see straight in if I left the blinds open, which obviously I never would, which meant that daylight was going to be kind of non-existent for me. Bathroom was shared and the bedroom was very small, but I even asked her like, where'd you keep all your clothes? And she was like, in there. And it was like a tiny skinny little wardrobe. Even though it was a double bed, the double bed did take up most of the room and there wasn't enough storage. The living room kitchen was pretty nice. The red kind of reminded me of student accommodation. One thing that the girl who was showing me around mentioned was that the lady that I was going to end up living with constantly had the heating on like 24/7. Before was JQ Rise, which was a really really great option for me. It was a big open space, a nice living room. The girl that advertised the room on SpareRoom brought a TV with her as well, so I watched that at times, and I ended up living in that flat for about 6 months before she decided she wanted to move out. It was on the first floor, so there was a little bit of a view, but it also meant because I was in front of a dual carriageway, every time I opened that window, I'd be able to hear the sirens, the noise, the traffic, because it was so loud. My bedroom and her bedroom were on opposite sides of the flat, so it did feel like we had our own little spaces, which I think is really important if you're living with somebody else, because it can be a bit awkward when you open your door, they open their door at the same time, and then you're both just like, who goes first? I just think it gives a bit more privacy. JQ Rise location, 8 out of 10. Safety, 7 out of 10. It was furnished, really good price. 625, so with bills it would be about 850, which was well within my budget. And number 5 was the Kettle Works, which was a super cute studio apartment, and this was done through an estate agent. It was a really cute studio, and I loved the idea of having my own space. In the beginning of my apartment hunt, I really wanted my own flat, to be honest. It had a really nice balcony, but it did face the courtyard. That meant that people would be able to see in, but it's just nice to have it there and get some air into it. The oven was quite close to the bedroom, which was a bit odd, but I guess in a studio, your bedroom is close to everything. But there was enough space for a desk, there was a nice little living room area, and I think for one person it was a really cute flat. The only thing that bugged me was that there was no like separation or privacy from the front door to your bedroom or your kitchen. The bathroom felt a little bit like a cubicle because it was so tight and boxy, and I kind of thought, I'm paying this much but I don't really have privacy in my bedroom. I can't really just go out and sit on the balcony because everyone's watching me. I think the bedroom being so exposed kind of just threw me off a little. So the location was a 9 out of 10. It was less than 10 minutes to get to my job. Safety was an 8 out of 10. It felt super safe because it's kind of like an inside out design. So all the flats kind of face inwards. So you have a really nice private courtyard. You also have to go through the reception area in order to get to your flat. So it is very secure. It was obviously furnished and the price was £800, and then with bills it's probably about £950 to £1,000. So for almost £1,000 or over £1,000, you don't have any privacy to your bedroom. You are living on your own. I think there was just a few things that made me just think, you know what, let me just spend my money on a shared flat, which is why I then went on to SpareRoom and started looking there. I think I ended up weighing the costs of living by myself and paying a lot versus sharing with somebody and paying a little bit less. That was my Birmingham apartment hunt. To be honest, where I'm living now is not even my dream apartment or anything, but I think you have to trial out different places to really know what you want. I would love to have a view, and I would pay more to have a view. I learned a lot on this apartment hunt. I love living on the first floor of JQ Rise, but living right in front of a dual carriageway is not it. Using both SpareRoom and traditional estate agents gave me a good sense of what I could get for my money in the city centre, especially on an £800 to £900 a month budget. It's not just about having nice interiors, and I think I've just come to that realisation that I can't afford to spend loads of money on making my place really beautifully furnished just on my salary. It's not realistic. It's more about safety, location, and how where you're living shapes your lifestyle. I am going to be sharing more about how I've decorated my flat where I am now. Living in Birmingham is like as a solo babe who is a young professional. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of that. Thank you for watching, and good luck finding your place. If you have any questions about prices, links to certain places, how I found certain places, then let me know in the comments, and I'm going to make sure to reply because I know how hard it is.